Following program is for training purposes in TV news education. Some copyrighted material is used and is credited on screen. However, no more was taken than was necessary to tell the story of the event. YBA claims fair use of materials.
What grasped you about Tony's life and career? What inspired you to write about him?
Actually, I'd love to take credit for having been inspired about it, but I was hired by some people to write his life story. And I did. I just fell in love with the whole project. As I was telling you earlier, I was given 18 months to write both the novel, get revisions, the screenplay, get revisions, turn everything in. And I was so taken with this project and bored so deeply into it that I turned the whole thing in 5.5 months. So this was something that I did. That was back in 2005. Felt like I was giving my child up when I had to turn it in, but through a set of circumstances that I could never have foreseen, a number of years later, I ended up taking the project over again, and I partnered up with a couple of other people, and basically I've been doing it ever since, you know, well, the last few years. It's our goal to get the film made as well as the book. And I think it would make a great human interest story. It's a love story. It's one of the greatest comeback stories in all of sports
It's everything
history.
you want in a book.
Everything you'd want in a book. Yeah, yeah. And it's not written as a documentary type. It's with a fictional format. It's a story, dialogue, characters, a plot, scenes.
Whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I found very interesting while reading it. It's not like your typical biography, which I've read in school. Like I read one about Jackie Robinson. I mean, it was pretty interesting, but definitely not as interesting as this one because, as you said, it has like a fictional plot, but you still get a lot of facts and good information about the person's life.
Yeah, everything in there is true. I didn't make anything up. I mean, I researched it in depth. And if somebody wouldn't go on the record with something, I didn't use it in the book. So.
Yeah, so one character that came up in the book was Tony's father.
Yes.
So what role did Tony's father in Tony's development as a baseball player?
As a baseball player, Tony's father had a passion for what he was doing. He wanted Tony to be a baseball player. The one that mentored him, starting at the age of 5, which is where the book begins, as an opening scene, was his Uncle Vinny. And he was the one that he got hurt, so it was almost like he was living vicariously through Tony, and Tony just loved it. He could have been anything he wanted, but by the time he was 5, he was a kid with a dream, and someday he wanted to be a baseball player. Tony's father didn't like the idea of Tony playing football or hockey because he could get hurt and it could potentially eliminate his possibility, his chance.
Very dangerous sports.
Very dangerous, yeah, anything physical to the extreme that those sports are compared to baseball, which is also a physical sport, but it's a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you think that his father when did his father know that he would be able to be a professional baseball player?
When he was about 15 or 16, he had developed. By then, Tony was over 6 feet tall. He was powerful. He was already hitting long, long home runs. He was hitting the ball very hard, and at the same time, it was quite obvious that Tony had a love for baseball, and it was the only thing that he wanted to do was play baseball.
Based on what you said, offset and onset, oh my God, I lost my train of thought. This is so embarrassing.
No. Go on.
Not to worry.
Go on. I'm so sorry.
That's
No,
all
don't
right.
be.
Yeah, so on to my next question. So your book talked about there's a high school game with Tony. There was Danny Murphy pitching. And Danny Murphy, he was this really good prospect. There were even MLB scouts at that game, if I recall correctly. And Tony, I believe he went 3 for 4 with 2 home runs in that game, with the MLB scouts watching him as well. So do you think that Tony performs better in high-pressure situations?
He loved it. That's what he lived for. Give me the high pressure thing where the whole game and everything's on the line and where you need somebody to come up and get that. Yeah, get that clutch hit that needs, you know, and Tony lived for that. He loved that kind of excitement.
That's what you want in a player.
Oh yeah, yeah. He was a pressure guy. He was a money guy. You know, when everything's on the line, you know, you want the let's say I don't know, pick some star athlete from whatever sport you want that the team relies on at that golden pressure moment, whether it's Kobe Bryant out in Los Angeles or Ray Allen when he was with the Celtics, Carl Yastrzemski, any of the players that are on the team
David
now.
Ortiz.
David Ortiz, yeah, absolutely. There's a guy that, yeah. So that's what he was. He lived for pressure.
And I just remembered, were there any antagonists in Tony's life? You know, people who really talked down to him or anything like that?
No, if there was, it was maybe somebody that was jealous of them. A lot of people were under the impression that he and Carl Yastrzemski were like this, and they were colliding, and not really. I interviewed Yaz for almost an hour, one-on-one, and we taped it, videotaped it, and he absolutely had nothing but admiration for Tony. They said that if it wasn't for the two of these guys competing for the #1 spot, who gets the most home runs, the most hits, the most RBIs, if it wasn't for their competition with each other on a personal level, with no animosity, they figured the Red Sox probably wouldn't have had that impossible dream year. But they did. And Yaz, of course, went on to make the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. He's also the last Triple Crown winner that they've had, where he had most RBIs, most home runs, and highest average for one season. And that was 1967, the impossible dream year.
Yeah, and Tony Conigliaro, he became the youngest player to win the AL home run champion. He had 32 home runs in 1965.
Yep. He also was the earliest player at that time to reach the 100 home run level. He did it 6 years ahead of Babe Ruth, 5 years ahead of Hank Aaron, and 7 years ahead of Carl Yastrzemski.
That's pretty good company.
That's very good company. He came in as a 19-year-old kid in his first at bat at Fenway Park. See ya. No, ball went out of the park. You know, first pitch, first game at Fenway.
Magical things happen at Fenway. What can I say?
That's,
Fenway is just,
there's ghosts.
that's why we
like
live
the
in
Montreal
Boston.
Forum.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, so if Tony Conigliaro, if he didn't, you know, if he wasn't hit by the baseball by Jack Hamilton, if he didn't have to retire so early, if he could have played, you know, 10, 15 years in the league, do you think the Red Sox would have won a World Series? Do you think he could have been a Hall of Famer?
They could have won the World Series in 1967, I think, because August 18th, 1967.
That's my birthday. That's so ironic.
Yeah, that's the year that he got hit, and he was having a great year that year. He couldn't come back for the rest of the season. He couldn't come back in '68.
Killer.
'69, he made Comeback Player of the Year, and in 1970, he won the American League batting title. So, you know, a lot of people felt that ended his career when he got hit. No, he came back. He played
really good for his predicament.
Well, '69 and '70, he turned in numbers that any player would like to have. At the same time, in '71, he had been traded to, ironically, the team that they were playing the night he got hit.
The Angels?
And yeah, the Angels. And in the middle of the season, he just decided that the thrill was gone. It wasn't the same as playing for the Red Sox in front of the hometown fans and all the rest of it. He did something a lot of people may or may not have done. He gave them half their salary back because he only played half the year.
So Bobby Orr did with the Chicago Blackhawks. He didn't
play as well as he did with the Bruins. He's like, you know what?
It was different. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's understandable. I mean, you know, you're with your hometown team, and he was performing well, especially coming after an injury, and then to have to go to the team that, you know, changed the course of not only your career, but your life, and just coming so suddenly. And it's not like he had to go to Philadelphia. He had to go to California, to the other side of the country, where he never had been before. So.
Ironically, after he had retired from the game several years later, he came back in 1975. He won the designated hitter's position, and which they didn't have in place in 1971 when he left. But he came back for half the season. His body wouldn't live up to the rigors and demands that he put it through training. But what did happen, he won that, and then he went on into a career in broadcasting, and just before a life-changing event occurred, he had just been named the color commentator for WSBK, which then was the anchor station for the whole Red Sox network. So he was destined to come back with them again. I won't get into details because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that reads the book, but something happened that precluded that.
Very, very sad.
Yeah, and but that's part of his story, and
Part of his life.
yeah, oh yeah. So.
So